Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our 23-24 Bidders Conference, or I should say 24 to 29 RFP Bidders Conference. Welcome in the room. Again, I want to make folks aware that we will be having more folks come in. So watch your toes if you're sitting on the outside and there's empty seats around you. We'd like for everyone who is able to have a seat to please be seated. We have to deal with the fire hazard of having too many folks standing around. And so we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. We hope that the information that you hear today provides the clarity that you need to submit the wonderful proposals that we know that you will. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our Director of Programs, Planning, and Grants, Ms. Sharice Dorsey.
All right. Good morning, everyone. How you feeling? So for those who don't know, and those who do know, I like a lot of energy. I feed off of high energy. I'm a high energy person, even when I don't feel like being high energy. I'm high energy. Those of you who caught me on Zoom, you already know. But welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to see you all. Are you excited to be here? That's what I like. All right. So this is going to be recorded, so please make sure you silence all your devices. We don't want any, little ringtones happening here. And, well, I'm not going to say what my ringtone is, but any inappropriate ringtones happening during this recording session. But like Lamont said, welcome to the 2024-2029 Bidders Conference. I am super excited to be here after, it's been 6 years. We were here 6 years ago in this room, on this stage, doing our last RFP. And a lot has happened in these 6 years. We had a whole pandemic, right? I don't know about y'all, but I've never been in a pandemic. So that was new for me. No. But a lot has happened. We had this pandemic that shook our core, but everyone persevered and you were strong and you came out and you showed up. San Francisco showed up. We showed up. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. All of you all, whether you are a current grantee or you're looking to be a grantee, I'm pretty sure all of you showed up for the Children, Youth, and Family in San Francisco, and we could not be more proud and more appreciative of all your work. And so, we were trying to be on time, but it's okay, because we're going to get out of here by 12. I say that. I'm known for saying 12, and it's 12:30, but we're going to get out of here by 12. So with that, I'm going to move along. Today, there's a lot that we're going to cover, but this isn't going to be like the Bidders Conferences in the past. We're not going to read you the RFP, because you can all read. So we're not going to read you the RFP. But what we're going to do is we're going to take you through this journey through the city to where we're going to do some introductions and overview. We're going to then head on over to Treasure Island and learn how to apply for this RFP. Then come back over, give you some information around budgets and what you guys should pay attention to, give you some tips and guidance on what we are actually looking for in this RFP. Head on over to some questions. So we will not be taking live questions today. We are going to answer some questions that have already been posted, but folks should have gotten a sheet of paper where you have 4 opportunities to write a question. You will fill those out, and you can pass them off to the folks once we have the question collectors to collect the questions from you. And then we're going to bid you adieu via Bayview. All right, so that rhymed. Last go-round, I rhymed. I'm not going to do it this go-round. Oh, I got to turn off YouTube. Sorry, hold on. There we go. Okay, if anyone has a seat next to you that's empty, please raise your hand. Those who need a seat, find someone who has their hand raised and take a seat next to them. I promise they won't bite. All righty. So Um, we learned, so normally I don't write stuff down, but I wrote this down just so I wouldn't forget some points that I wanted to make, especially because I'm about to bring someone to the stage who is just, I think is just amazing. One of my, she doesn't know this, but she'll know this now, one of my sheroes. So, you know, we learned a lot during the pandemic, and if it wasn't for the fierce leadership of not just the mayor of the city, but from the person who I'm about to bring to the stage this morning, we wouldn't be here today. Without her leadership, we would not have been able to quickly pivot the way we did to respond to an unknown situation that none of us have ever been a part of, to bring down a lot of the red tape and barriers that we as a city, I admit, we construct these barriers and red tape, but we tore them down during the pandemic, and we wouldn't have been able to do this fearlessly or effortlessly. It was a lot of effort, but still effortlessly. From opening our early care youth centers to our community hubs to doing summer together, she constantly put her neck out and her job on the line without caring about the consequence. She's like, fire me, I dare you. I'm gonna do this without you, regardless. She is and will always be an advocate, the loudest one in the room, the last one standing for children, youth, and their families. She's the longest seated director for this department. I'm gonna say that again. She's the longest seated director for this department. So that means she's doing something right. And, you know, we wouldn't be here today to discuss this RFP, which, by the way, is one of the largest that we are actually administering the funds. And there's just so much more I could say about her, but I'm gonna wrap it up because we gotta keep moving. So it is with my esteemed pleasure and my honor to introduce Dr. Maria Sue.
Hello, everyone. Oh my goodness, what do I do after that? Thank you so much, Charisse. You know, I think the reason why I have been around for so long is because I hire, and we have such amazing people like Charisse Dorsey Smith. And the rest of our DCYF staff who have worked tirelessly over not just the last several months, but definitely the last several years to put together and essentially birth this RFP. So thank you so much for being here today. It's wonderful to see a packed house, and I do know that this is recorded, so later on when you want to revisit any of these major talking points, please do so. So once again, I'm Maria. I am the director for this department. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces. Like Charisse said, it's been several years that we've actually been together in this room. And I look forward to reading the hundreds of proposals that's gonna be coming in soon. So I'm excited to be here. Today is our bidders conference for the 2024-2029 DCYF request for proposal. This is our pivotal moment in DCYF's entire work history, where we dig deep and we come up with strategies and services that we believe, as a community, together, we're going to move the needle for our children, youth, TAY, and families. We are inspired by Mayor Breed and, quite frankly, by all of us, but particularly by Mayor Breed's words that she stated at the State of the City address a couple of months ago, where she said, "We endure, we adapt, we lead. In this city, anything is possible." And I truly believe that. And every single person at DCYF truly believes that. And I know that you all as well, because we all dug really deep during the pandemic to make sure that that was possible. As we emerge from this pandemic, we know that our city stood tall and strong as a beacon of hope and resilience for our children, youth, and family. We endured. From the initial days of the stay-at-home order to the ongoing recovery effort that we are in right now, our collective determination led us to become youth development and educational first responders, right? We are all first responders because we're there. I keep saying we, it's you. You're there. You're there with those young people. You're there trying to calm them down, trying to help them learn, trying to help them build all of those skills and strengths that we want our young people to have. Together, we formed a protective village, working tirelessly in our neighborhoods to ensure the safety, health, and well-being of all of our residents. Our city's history is a testament to the power of transformation, where dreams turn into reality. Throughout the pandemic, our grantees, some of you all in here, displayed remarkable ability to pivot and change your day-to-day programming into providing services that were brand new and unknown. We adapted. Our city and community partners stood as pillars of support for everyone. We gained valuable insight during this period, and as Cherise shared, we also acknowledged that there were many unnecessary bureaucracies that we, DCYF, and we, the city, demanded and placed on our partners, you all. So we are learning about that, and we are committed to making sure that we create an RFP, a grant cycle that is going to be flexible, that is going to really honor your expertise, your skills, your knowledge, so that we can then support, truly support you to do the work that you all want to do. Thank you. So it is clear that we must embrace a new and different approach as we, the world, our city, our communities have undergone this profound change. By fostering so therefore we lead. By fostering meaningful collaboration across city departments, the school district, city college, community partners, and the private sector, we ensured that the alignment of shared values, shared investments, and shared resources are realized. And I'm really intentional when I say the word shared investments with our city partners, because we're going to do this together. We are determined to amplify our influence across our 4 citywide result areas. Our children, youth, and families will be supported by nurturing families and communities. They will be physically and emotionally healthy. They will be ready to learn and succeed in school, and young people will be ready for college, work, and productive adulthood. That is our commitment to our city and our commitment as DCYF to you all, to support you all. And this RFP is designed to ensure that we as a community of people will achieve these goals together. With our sights set on transformed future, we work towards achieving citywide results that create a positive impact on daily lives of our San Francisco's residents. Our commitment to the values of creativity, intention, and collaboration means that we have to remain strong and steadfast. We invite each of you to embark on this transformative journey with us and help us reimagine the possibilities of what our children, youth, young adults, and families can and are entitled to experience and feel in this amazing city of great wealth. Let us forge ahead united in our deep commitment to making San Francisco a great place to grow up. With that, I look forward to reading your proposals. I look forward to getting to know you all. And I'm so excited for this next step with everyone. Thank you. So moving on in our program, I am going to introduce I'm going to invite Amijo Gomes, our Director of Strategic Partnerships, to come and provide an overview of our process and the purpose of the RFP. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? I'm having a little bit of deja vu right now from literally 6 years ago, standing here doing the same thing, but it's great to be back here today. All right, so we're going to get started here today. Let me just do a little navigation here. So as Maria said, my name is Amijo Gomes. I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives for DCYF. And so we're going to start here at the top. All right, so this slide represents all of our funding across all of our various types of funding. And so the total allocation is $127.2 to $140.6 million annually for the 2024 to 29 funding cycle. So the reason I'm starting with this is because this is actually listed incorrectly in the RFP. So in the RFP, we actually stated this top number as the number that we're RFPing out, and that's actually incorrect. So we will be issuing a revision of the RFP a little bit later this week, but I also wanted to make sure that I just went over this today. So the way that it actually breaks down is that our DCYF grants, or also known as the 2024 through 29 RFP, the range of funding for that is $87.3 million to $96.5 million. And then for our partnerships, which is dollars that we send to other city departments and to the school district, it's $30.7 million to $33.9 million. And then lastly, for the things that we do internally, things like evaluation, technical assistance, and other things, the range is $9.2 million to $10.1 million. So just something to note for you guys. All right, so breaking down the 2024 to 29 RFP, it breaks down into these 4 categories. So we have 4 results areas, 8 service areas, 23 funding strategies, and 8 initiatives. So quite a bit in there, and I'm sure you probably noticed that because it's kind of a thick book. We have plenty for you guys to read. So the DCYF team has been very, very busy putting this all together. We're really excited to be putting this out. All right, so in terms of the purpose of this RFP, basically the purpose is for us to select the grantees that are going to help us achieve these results. And as Maria said, children and youth are supported by nurturing families and communities. Children and youth are physically and emotionally healthy. Children and youth are ready to learn and succeed in school, and youth are ready for college, work, and productive adulthood. So these are the results that we are super focused on trying to achieve in the new funding cycle. And it's actually also the way that the RFP is organized. And so you'll find in the RFP that under each result area are service areas, and then their corresponding strategies and initiatives. So just a little note for you all about the structure of the RFP. Now, the 2024 to 29 RFP is the culmination of our planning cycle. That cycle began with the 2022 CNA, the Community Needs Assessment. It continued with our services allocation plan that we put out just a few months ago, and of course it wraps up with this RFP. So we always say, and we're very, very focused and committed on the fact that equity is our through line for all of our work. And that's because it's more than just a lens of our work, it's more than a focus, it's actually a set of practices that we use that's very important to us. And so equity shows up in our CNA because it's really a massive community engagement process. It's really the way that we figure out what are the needs, what are the disparities, what are those experiences that children, youth, and their families are having that we need to address. Okay, so then we take that same focus on equity into the allocation plan, both in our intention to address those CNA findings and in the approaches that we actually set for ourselves. And then, of course, our RFP has equity throughout it, right? So that includes both the way that we develop the RFP as well as the way that we actually administer it. So the RFP includes strategies and initiatives that directly address the findings of the CNA. Okay, there is that line that goes all the way back to the CNA there. In addition, we set priority populations, and we set target populations for each one of those strategies and initiatives. Those are the folks that we know who need those services. And then in terms of the way that our process works, we are super focused on trying to make sure that the grantees who are most able to provide those services, that bring all those skills that we know that are important, everything from the ability to run a quality program to a connection to your communities, the ability to speak languages that folks in your community speak, and to connect with people's cultures, and all of those elements that are really crucial. So our process is really focused on trying to make sure that those grantees rise to the top. All right, so I also like to just share this formula because this is part of what is guiding us as we go into the new funding cycle. And Maria addressed this a little bit, but it goes something like this. Our intentional funding, whether that's our grants or the money that we send to other city departments, plus the coordination that we do with those city agencies and SFUSD, leads to better outcomes for children, youth, TAY, and their families. It's something that we are super focused on. And so this actually is more than just a simple formula. This is actually a commitment by DCYF, a commitment to be proactive in our coordination and the way that we work with our partners. It's a call to action for us to actually lead, to not just come to the table and be a part of that table, but to actually convene that table. And to do that for the benefit of children, youth, TAY, and their families in San Francisco. And then lastly, it's a goal. It's a goal for us to work tirelessly with our partners, which of course includes our grantees, to actually try to come back in 2027 for our next community needs assessment and to see some different outcomes, to see some better results. That is really what we are most focused on achieving in this funding cycle. And that's also actually where you all come in. So we obviously cannot do any of that without our grantees. You guys are our partners. You're our agents of change in the community. And so ultimately, we are really, really excited to see all the great innovative ideas that you guys are coming up with, all the amazing programming that you're prepared to offer. And even though we're ready to get hundreds of proposals, we're excited to be able to read all the details of those proposals so that we can come out with a portfolio of grantees that's really going to help us get to these results over the next 4 years. 5 years, excuse me. Just kidding. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do here before I turn it over to the next presenter is go over this timeline. So obviously the RFP came out on the 16th. It's been out for a couple weeks. We're doing a couple sessions of bidders conferences today. At the end of this week, at 5 o'clock on the 1st, we will stop collecting questions for the RFP, so just something to note. And that's so that we can put out the answers, the Q&A, that we will post on our website on the 8th, so a week after this coming Friday. We are still collecting questions today, so you still have the opportunity to get those questions in. And then, of course, the key date, which you make sure you want to write this on your calendar, 10/20 at 5 p.m. proposals are due. Let me say it again, 5 p.m. October 20th, proposals are due. Okay, so make sure you get those in. Then we'll spend a couple of months going through our reading and scoring process. That'll take us to the end of the calendar year. We'll take the first 2 months of 2024 to do our deliberation and decision-making process. And then we hope to announce our awards on March 11th of 2024. So we kind of have a ways to go, a lot of things to happen, but we're excited to get going in this process, and we're happy to have you guys all here with us today. All right, so with that, I'm actually going to call up our next presenter, who is one of the members of our... He has walk-up music. He's got walk-up music. Do I even need to say more about that? So one of the gurus of our data team, our data and analytics manager, Wally Abrazaldo.
All right, thank you, Amijo. So hi, everyone. I'm Wally Abrazaldo, and I work on DCYF's Research Evaluation and Data team. I have the great pleasure of demonstrating how to use our online system to create and submit proposals. So let me go ahead. Clicker. Well, I'm going to use the system too. So let's see. So okay, great. So this slide provides an overview of the 4 basic steps. 1, create a user account. 2, complete the agency profile. 3, create a proposal. And 4, submit the proposal. So let me actually just pull up the system so you can see it. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So the first step is to create an account. The key thing here is that a single account should be used to create and submit proposals for your agency. So this may be an existing user account if you have submitted proposals to us in the past using this system. If your agency is a current DCYF grantee, this RFP system account is different from your CMS accounts used for invoicing and reporting. If you do not know your agency's RFP account username, you can look it up using this forgot your username or password function here in the below the login box. If you don't know or you don't have access to the email address associated with a past RFP account, you can also create a new account for your agency. And let me go back to the presentation. So this slide shows what that process looks like. So since a single user account should be used to create and submit proposals, if multiple people from your agency will be working on proposals, please remember to use a password that you are comfortable sharing. After you fill in your account details here and submit it, you should receive an email address, an email asking you to verify your account. It will look something like this from Cityspan. That's our vendor for the system, so do not reply at cityspan.com, asking you to verify your account. If you don't receive it, please be sure to check your spam or junk email folder. All right, so now I'm going to log into the system and with my test account to demo how it actually works. All right, so once you have an account, make it a little bit bigger here. Okay, once you have an account, you'll have access to complete the agency profile, which is the second step of creating and submitting a proposal. So let me click into that. I believe I clicked in. Sometimes it's a little slow. Okay, great. So note, you do not need to complete the agency profile in one sitting. You can save your progress by clicking on the Save button at the top of the page or the side of the page here, and return to it later to complete and submit it. When you click on the Save button, the system will save your work, validate what you have entered, and highlight any fields that may be missing data or have an error. So you can see here that the system caught that I didn't enter data in some fields, and it's prompting me with a little red marker. So please save your work often. The system will not automatically save your progress for you. If you accidentally close your browser and have forgotten to save, you'll likely lose any work since the last time you saved. So once you have completed your agency profile, you can submit it. The submit button is at the top. This essentially means that you're done and you won't be making further changes. So while it's not necessary to submit the agency profile before moving on to the next step of creating proposals, you'll not be able to officially submit your proposals to us until you have submitted your agency profile. So I'm going to go through right now and quickly complete this so I can demo submitting a proposal later on. Market Street, Suite 900, San Francisco, California, 94102. Okay, save. Okay, now that everything's complete, I don't see an error message at the top. It's all done. I'm going to click on the Submit button. And you can see when I click on the Submit button, a pop-up window opens up asking for confirmation. It also lets me know that I can unlock the form and bring it back to an unsubmitted state later on if I need to make edits. I'm going to go ahead and submit it now. Okay, great. You can see here that it's submitted. So the third step in creating proposals is to add a new proposal. So I already started a proposal earlier, but I'm actually going to start another one. So to start a proposal, click on the Add New Proposal button at the bottom of the home page. So click on that. So on this next page, you'll be asked to give your proposal a name. select the result area, service area, and strategy, and acknowledge that you've read through the requirements. So let me just quickly do a test proposal. Test proposal. Here's where you select your result area. I'm going to click on one here. Educational supports. You can see that some of these fields are conditional. They're based on previous responses. So they show up after you select a service area and result area. So I'm putting in a proposal in the academic support strategy under educational supports, which is under the children and youth are ready to learn and succeed in school result area. So on this page also, you'll be able to add details for primary contact for your proposal. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and submit this. Okay, great. So this brings up the proposal overview page. All right, so now I have access to complete the other proposal forms. So the first form is the program design form. This is the form where you identify your program's target population. So I'll click on this target population, and once I select a target population, the other questions on this page will appear. You'll see for each question that there's a character response limit that counts down with each character that I enter. And again here, be sure to save your work. You can click on the Save button, and because the system will not auto-save for you. So I'm going to save my work for now and move on to another form, but again, this is where all of the RFP questions appear, and you'll enter your responses here. So let me go back to the proposal overview page so I can work on another form. So the next form is the Services and Projections form. On this form, you'll project or forecast the number of youth along with their demographics. You'll also describe where in the city you plan to provide services and add brief descriptions of the core activities of your program at each of those locations. Note that you're able to add multiple locations and multiple activities to each location. So on this form also, you'll be asked to describe when during the year your program will operate. So I'm going to quickly add one site location with 2 activities. Let's say it's at the DCYF offices, at the street address, just the group workshops. Of course, you'll be adding more expansive descriptions. I'm going to go ahead and add another activity. Say you also offer tutoring. Okay, great. So fairly simple. Once you add an activity, it'll add additional prompts for that activity. Same with the service site location. So I'll go ahead and go back and move on to the next form. You can see here that I don't need to complete the forms in order. I can save my progress, go back to a form, and work on it later. So the last form is the budget form. So on this form, you'll describe the overall budget for your program and the amount of funding that you're requesting from DCYF. The first step here is to select the categories that will be part of your budget. Under each category, you'll provide details of your program costs and the amount of funds that you're requesting from DCYF. So note that some fields on this page will auto-calculate when you click on the Save button. So I'm just going to do a very simple budget for the purposes of this demonstration, add one category with one line item. So let's see. And And this is a calculated field, so when I save, the program costs will appear here, and I'm just going to make that my full request. Can save. So you can see that sometimes the system takes a little bit of time to calculate. You don't want to wait until the last minute when there might be others in the room trying to click on the system and do the same thing that you're doing. So definitely take the next few months to work on this and enter your information into the system. So, okay, now I'll save my work. I'll go back to the proposal overview page. So I've demoed going through most of the pages here, except for the sign and submit proposal. This step is not accessible because I haven't submitted the previous pages. So to demo that, I'm actually going to go into that other proposal that I started earlier so that I can show you what that process looks like to submit a proposal. So, okay, so I'm going to go into this other proposal that I started earlier. Okay, you can see here that all the proposal forms and the agency profile have been submitted for this proposal. So now that last step, the sign and submit step, is now accessible. I can click on it. There's no little error message below it. And let me click on that. So on this page, you can download a PDF copy of your proposal for review before you submit it. And you can, you see the proposal contact listed here. There's a little disclaimer saying that you understand by clicking submit that you're going to submit this proposal to DCYF. So once you've submitted your proposal, the only way to edit it ahead of the deadline will be to contact our system vendor to get access. So please only submit your proposal when you're certain that it's ready and it's complete. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this one so you can see what it looks like. Again, it's asking for confirmation. And then you can see on the proposal overview page, there's a little message saying that your application is complete, and a little message saying that you know, is submitted at the time you submitted it. So, okay, great. That is the process to create and submit proposals. Let me go back to the presentation. So yeah, we're hoping that this process is smooth, but please do reach out if you run into any technical issues. So thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Lamont Snare and Prashni Murillo, Program and Planning Managers at DCYF, who will go over the different ways you're able to apply to this RFP.
Okay, buenos dias. Welcome, good morning. So you've gotten a lot of technical content on how to apply. And today we're gonna go over the many ways you can apply. I know you've been probably looking through the RFP and seeing the 4 result areas and potentially seeing service areas across multiple result areas and strategies and initiatives. And what we wanna say today and walk you through is that there are multiple ways to apply for funding because we also recognize that you might be applying for one program and you're really clear, or you might be applying for multiple programs where, you know, I understand that there's a lot of agencies that by nature of your work, you really see having outcomes or impacts across the result areas that we've been speaking to. The way our RFP is structured is that we're actually asking you to choose a primary result area for programming because we really want to emphasize that your program is to serve toward a result, a collective result that our director has spoken to, that Amijo and Cherise has spoken to, and you're not limited by a result area. So we actually want to go through some multiple scenarios of how you can begin to think about and ultimately apply for funding through this RFP. So the first step, again, please read, understand the result area. If you need context and how or what is the community needs that we're trying to address through these result areas, please read. We've provided plenty of information for you to read to understand the result areas. Again, they're citywide result areas. We also, once you've kind of identified the result area that is most clear in alignment with the impact of your program, we ask you to identify the service area and choose the strategy and initiative that, because of its requirements, your program is best positioned to meet that service area goal and ultimate result area intent. So again, we want you to start big vision and narrow down. And once you've identified, as you saw through the demo, all these are conditions. Result area will allow you to choose certain service areas, which then will give you a menu of strategies or initiatives. And once you identify those, you will be presented with all the forms that you will be required to complete for that specific strategy or initiative based on, again, the service area and the result area that is aligned with. You will read that in the result area descriptions and the service area descriptions, we have tried to provide as much information around the target population and age ranges that you can serve within that. So please make sure that you read those in detail, especially for service areas and strategies that you will find in multiple result areas. All right, so there are, because of all this, there's multiple ways for agencies that can apply for funding. You know, you can apply for one result area for one program, or you can apply for you can apply for multiple programs within one result area, or you can apply for multiple programs across multiple result areas, or you can have multiple result areas for one program, or multiple result areas and any combination of the above. And so we are going to talk a little bit of what that looks like in actuality for you all.
Okay, so you can decide, as Prishni stated, you can decide to apply for result area. So we've tried to, the next few slides will be some examples of how you can apply. So here you have an example of the children and youth are ready to learn and succeed in school result area, the service area being out of school time, and the strategy are comprehensive year-round and summer learning. Okay? So that's if you decide to apply for one result area, one program. Okay? Next, you can apply for one result area with multiple programs. Okay, so here we have the result area, youth are ready for college, work, and productive adulthood. In this result area, you could apply for, let's say, the service area of justice services and the strategy justice services care coordinators. And you could apply for the service area youth workforce development with the strategy being YWD TEA. And you could apply for the service area of educational supports with the strategy of alternative education. And you can apply for the service area of enrichment and skill building with the strategy of identity formation. And again, I'm going to stress this in each of these examples. It is very important that you read through the service areas and especially the strategies, because while we have strategies that cross over different result areas, in most cases, there are differences in target populations and requirements. So it's very critical that you are making sure to pay attention to the result area that you are in with the service area and strategy to make sure that you are mindful of the target populations and requirements. Okay, that's yet another option. The next option, you can apply in multiple result areas with multiple programs. So here I'll talk about the result area of children and youth are ready to learn and succeed in school with the service area of out of school time, the strategy being comprehensive year-round and summer, as well as the service area of educational supports with a strategy of literacy supports. Okay. You can also apply under a result area of youth are ready for college, work, and productive adulthood, with the service area of educational supports with the strategy of alternative education. And again, here you see you have two result areas with the same service area, but different strategies. As well, youth workforce development, YWD general. So here we have, again, multiple result areas and multiple programs. Our next example is multiple result areas with one program per result area. So in this example, you have children and youth are ready to learn and succeed in school again with out-of-school time and Beacon Community Schools, as well as youth are ready for college, work, and productive adulthood with educational supports as the service area and alternative education. So again, this is yet another way that an agency can apply for multiple result areas with one program in each result area. And lastly, the combination being multiple result areas and any combination of programs you would like. So the world is your onion. When it comes to this RFP, open it up and apply, as Prishni mentioned, in the result area, the service areas, and the strategies that best align with your programming. We can't stress that point enough, that it's what best aligns with your programming. And again, make sure to read through the RFP because there are nuances in each of the different strategies with regard to target populations and requirements. So with that, I'm gonna pass it back to Prishni.
Yes. And as a reminder, please, you guys have pieces of paper in which to write your questions in. Please write questions and submit them by September 1st. Don't let what potentially could look like a Tetris game or lead to confusion, because when you read in the RFP, if you really begin by reading and understanding our result areas, and you have some really core understanding of your mission, where your strengths of your programming, the intent of your own programming is, then we believe that you will actually be in a really great position to apply with this new structure of our RFP. And also, I know Charisse will be back later on the presentation to speak more on the structure and how it will result in some of our other goals around more flexibility and our intent to fully fund really well-structured programs that lead us to those results that we've already named. And so now we're going to introduce our colleague, Greg Rojas, Senior Fiscal and Planning Specialist, who will provide some highlights about doing our business guide and online submissions.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? It's great to see a lot of new and old faces. And I'm Greg Rojas, the Senior Fiscal Compliance Officer. And yes, I read every one of your audits you've submitted from start to finish, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So the first thing that, just real quick, what we're going to talk about is compliance. So right now, we're redoing the Doing Business Guide, and we hope to get it out by February 2024. But we have some really good news. Yes, we do listen to you, and sometimes it takes a while, but I'd like to thank senior staff and a grant manager, Brett, for pushing this through, in that we are now going to raise the admin from 15 to 20%. That's awesome. And then, and again, just remember that all the information on the Doing Business Guide is still accurate, but follow that. And the other thing is, in the future, when subcontractors for next year, we're going to ask you that you submit the liability insurance for the subcontractor that you are going to have. So basically, with that said, I'd like to introduce the grant manager, Brett Connor. Thank you.
Let's see, we've officially, to the minute, reached the halfway point, which means you're allowed to stand and stretch, breathe, whatever you like to do. In that meantime, I'll tell you that I am quite disappointed in this group. Very few of you wore Barbie pink today. It is the summer of 2023. I went for the Barbenheimer look myself. One half Barbie, one half nerd. Who tosses the occasional bomb? Okay. We are going to talk about budgets and then some compliance requirements for this RFP. Now, I am told, I did not know this, some of you who've been around for a while may know that in the past, with every single RFP, we would completely change the structure of how we asked you to express your budgets. Good news, we have not done that this time. You're welcome. There are some changes. I'll point those out to you. I am not going to talk through every single detail of these slides. The details are in the RFP, but we do want to do some greatest hits highlights. First of which, you may have seen this from the walkthrough that Wally did. When you're telling us your budget, you're really telling us two budgets. One is the budget for your total program, and the other is the budget that you're requesting support for from DCYF. So for every single element of your proposal, you're going to get two numbers to us. One is for the total program, and one is what you're requesting for as a grant. And we'll be able to see how much of your total program load you're requesting from DCYF in this RFP. And here's an example for this particular element. The total program cost is $10,000, but the request from DCYF is only $2,000. And the assumption there is that there's $8,000 of other funding that you've identified to support the full load of that cost. As I said, we have kept our budget categories consistent. So those of you who are with us now, your budgets are going to look very, very similar to what you have today, so you don't need to go back to the drawing board on those. I'm going to talk through these 7 categories to give you a sense of what is lingering behind them all. The first, where a majority of our funds go, is adult staff. These are the salaries for your program staff. Not all your staff. You might have some administrative staff. They're going to go elsewhere in your budget. But for your staff directly working on program provision, this is where their salaries are going to go. We're going to ask for 1 entry for each individual staff member. And as you saw Wally do, we're going to ask you to express that as an hourly wage. And the system will do some computations in the background to understand what that full load is. The next category is youth staff. As opposed to adult staff, you do not need to put a single entry in for every individual youth you intend to engage in your program. You can categorize them. You can have multiple youth in one line item as long as they're in the same, doing the same work and receiving the same hourly wage. Next is fringe benefits. I think that speaks for itself. Subcontractors, oh yeah. External parties that you engage for your organizations. Your subcontractors. They can be nonprofits, they can be for-profits, they can be sole proprietors, that's all fine. Whatever you have brought in to make your programs click, this is where you want to put those budgets in. We are going to ask that you have an MOU in place with all of your subcontractors. They should have a contract supporting their work. As Greg mentioned, we are going to ask for insurance for all of those subcontractors, and all of those subcontractors will be held to the exact same contractual provisions as you, the main grantee. Right? If you are engaging individuals as subcontractors, I highly encourage you to bone up on the federal, state, and local laws that prescribe working with individuals as subcontractors, and seek counsel on how to best incorporate them into your programs and your budgets. Materials and supplies, this is where your office supplies and your program supplies will go. Program expenses, there are a lot of them. I'm not going to read them all to you, but these are the expenses that really fund the work of the program, the non-personnel costs and the non-supply costs of your programs. The last one is administrative. Those of you who are paying attention may have noticed there's a long list here which maps on to several similar expenses from the program side. And that's true. We know that you have expenses that map across different expense categories. That's okay. The program side should be going under your other program expenses. The administrative side of that will go under here, right? And as Greg said, we have increased that limit to 20%. It was 15. If you're a current grantee, it's a 15% cap now. In this RFP and for the coming cycle, it's 20%. Okay, that was a quick brush through our 7 budget categories. A few recommendations. First, make sure when you're doing your budgets, you're really thinking about the full cost of your program. That is easier said than done, and I know that, but take the time now to really think, what are all the components and all the expenses that you have that make your programs happen? Something of a corollary to that is be aware of shared expenses. We know that staff, supplies, almost every single element can be broken up amongst different areas and shared between different programs. That's okay. Just make sure you've mapped all that out so that when you're telling us your budget, you're asking for every single penny it takes to make the program happen. I encourage you to get input from others. Those of you lonely budget people in your nonprofits, stand up from your cubicles, go talk to your colleagues, ask for a gut check. Does this budget make sense to you? And make adjustments if necessary. Be specific. I hate unspecific budgets. Tell us exactly what you mean, okay? We give you an opportunity to express your budget in numbers. We also give you an opportunity to express it in words. Use both of those. We're not mind readers, and it's true, just like Greg, I love reading audits, I love reading budgets, but most people need English language to understand budgets. Help them. If there's a calculation that's behind some of those numbers, show us what your calculation was. Is it a certain percentage of a larger number? Good. Just tell us that, and let us know exactly where those numbers are coming from. Don't make us guess. And the last one, it's one of my personal pet peeves. There is an other category for every single budget area. Use it sparingly. It's fair. You might have expenses that aren't sort of preloaded into it. That's fine. But don't make it a majority of your budget. And make sure before you click other that it's not an expense that really is best defined by something we've already set up in the system. All right, that's the whole budget. Now moving on to some compliance. Who is eligible for this? There's a change in this, and it's a pretty significant one. You no longer are restricted to just applying as a nonprofit. We will accept applications from a broad array of organizations. You can be a for-profit company, you can be an individual, you can be a program utilizing a fiscal sponsor. In order to get a grant, we need to have the following components in place. You've got to be an approved city supplier. If you are not already a city supplier, that process can take a while, so I encourage you to start that process as soon as possible. There's information in the RFP about how to do that through the city supplier portal. And you need to be compliant with the Attorney General's office for the state of California. There are a lot of requirements of our grantees. Those of you who are grantees now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I pulled out a few, but there's actually many, many more. You need to have 3 types of insurance: commercial general liability, auto, and workers' comp. You need to have accessibility. You need to have open meetings that the public, at least once a year, can attend. There's lots of non-discrimination elements to it. The minimum compensation, I will take a moment to dive into. The minimum compensation ordinance of the City and County of San Francisco dictates a minimum wage that any staff member being paid through a city contract must earn. 2 days ago, there was a big change in the MCO. You probably got an email. I hope if you're a current grantee, you got an email on Monday about that. Youth staff are now exempt from that. I know. What that means is, if you are engaging youth staff in your program who are under 19 and earning a wage, it no longer must be the MCO rate. It has to at least be the San Francisco minimum wage. Right? That went into effect literally on Monday, and that has been legislated, so that will be carrying us through all the way through this cycle. Right? We do like to see youth representation on your boards of directors. More information on all of this is in the RFP, but then this last one, there are several other things that you would go blind trying to read a screen full of all the requirements the city has. Look in the RFP for details. Look in your grant agreements. If you're a current grantee, you have one. If you're not, there is a copy of a template grant agreement that's in the RFP, so you can go through and you can read it. Everything that will be expected of you as a DCYF grantee. And then a couple words on fiscal sponsorship. We love fiscally sponsored programs. That's great. If you're using one, we highly encourage it. We have great relationships with our fiscal sponsors. But if you're not familiar with that concept, this is when a program that does not have its own nonprofit designation essentially piggybacks on another. And this organization, the umbrella of a fiscal sponsor, provides administrative and budget support for the program. So we are looking at that program in terms of implementing youth services, but we will contract with the fiscal sponsor who's responsible for overseeing and managing it. That fiscal sponsor must be your 501c3, and you must have that agreement in place before you file your RFP. We are going to be asking for information for your fiscal sponsor in the application. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 uploads you'll need to do in the system if you have a fiscal sponsor. We want to see their audits. We want to see their 990s. We want to see financial statements that they're able to produce for your specific program. And we want to see the signed MOU you have, the agreement between you and your fiscal sponsor about what the delegation of responsibilities will be and how that relationship is going to work. I think that's all. Yeah, wasn't so bad. All right, there was a script. I had a script, which I did not follow, but there is a line from it that I will read verbatim. We are almost done. To get us to that finish line, to talk about some tips, I'm going to toss it back to Cherise Dorsey-Smith.
All right, thank you, Brett. Y'all like the music? Y'all like that transition? Right. All right, so I'm here to, let me get into it a little bit more, give some tips and guidance. You know, we've never done that before. We've never told you, this is what we're looking for. This is what we want you guys to do. This is what we do not want you guys to do. So I'm gonna take some time to go through some tips that we think is gonna be beneficial for you all. Broken it down from proposals to the funding amounts to what's new. So for proposals, what we are looking for, read and answer all the questions. Do not cut and paste. If you joined us for the transitioning, designing programs through transitioning times, we had a lovely conversation about cutting and pasting or copying and pasting. Do not do it. The reason why I'm saying that is because although the question may be the same, because there are questions that are repeated. What is your target population? What is the program impact? Depending on the service area and the strategy, it's going to call for a different response. I have read, over the last 4 funding cycles that I've been a part of, I'm like, hey, this looks familiar. I just read this. I'm like, but we're asking something different. So we're looking for a slightly different response. So you might be, if you're filling out the target population, you're under the strategy for literacy supports, and you're filling out the target population there, and then we're asking you about the target population for enrichment under enrichment and skill building and identity formation. The strategies are different. The needs for that target population for those strategies will be different. I should not read the same need under literacy, under identity formation. So that's why we just want you to really, really read through and give some thought. Like, this is highly competitive. We want you guys to put your best foot forward and really make it a hard decision. It's already so hard to decide, but we want you to make it even harder, because we're like, yeah, they get it. They know what they're talking about. We see this. We're going to be crying in this room for hours trying to decide. But so please read all the questions. Read the population that you're choosing to serve, because there's then some sub-questions that come up. So, you may choose justice services, and you're choosing TAY population, disconnected TAY. There's some additional questions that come up. That's why we really need you to read all the questions, and do not cut and paste or copy and paste. Be clear and concise. I know that's hard, because I'm long-winded as well. So I know it's hard to be like, I want to tell you about everything that I'm doing. Nah, tell it to me in just like 5 sentences. No, be clear and concise. The character limit is 900 for all of the sections except for program and design and implementation. This is where it's 1,400, because this is where we really want you to tell us about your program. What is its intention? What is it designed to do? How are you having this impact? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Take me through a day in the life of a young person engaging in your programs and services, which leads me down to core services. Within the program design and implementation section, there are questions that ask about your core services. These are defined as components of your program model that you implement regardless of funding. If you tell me my program, the core of how I design my program, I make sure we do academic supports, academic tutoring, we're making sure we're doing some enrichment, we're doing some, some health and wellness care. These are the components. If I don't have any of these elements, that's not my program. So we're expecting to see what are the elements that make your program and how the RFP is set up. If you say, these are our core programs, as you saw when Wally went through, when you're filling out the forms, we then ask you about your projected activities. So those activities should then support the core elements that you said are your program. So if academic supports is a core thing of your program, when we look at the projected activities, we should be able to see that. You're actually going to state that within the RFP, because the question asks you that. What are the activities? I should be able to look in the RFP, and I'm reading your narrative, then go to the projected activities form and see those activities reflected in that form, and then go to the budget and see the staff needed for those activities within the budget, okay? Everything needs to connect. I come from program. For those of you who've been around, I was in program, I ran program, I see some head nods, for about 15 years before I came to the department. There's a lot of us now at DCYF who come from program. We ran programs, so we understand programming. So a lot of the stuff that we put in the RFP is with the foundation that we know what you guys are walking. We know what you're thinking and what you're going through. And we're trying to put it in a way where you can accurately reflect what you're doing, how you do, and what it looks like, and how much it's going to cost to be able to do that, right? Some people might think, oh, it looks like you're being prescriptive. No, We just really understand. We have years of coming out to your programs, observing your programs, talking to you. You guys have talked to us a lot and told us, this is what it is. And so we're reflecting all that back to you within the RFP. Now, this is going to get into funding by amounts versus service area versus strategy. I've already got a lot of questions via RFP at DCYF about, hey, how much is the actual strategies? What's the range? We're not doing a range in strategies. And we did it by service area because it allows for more flexibility around funding amounts for proposals. How many we fund, how much we fund. We talked about going bigger, providing bigger grants. In the past, when you have just that, okay, you're only going to have 500,000 to $1 million, that limits you in what your program probably really costs and what you need, and it limits us in being able to fund more than what maybe that strategy initially called for, because other proposals are actually meeting the needs and the gaps that we've seen. So we decided to make it easier for both you and us, even though it might seem a little bit more difficult for you, but to move the funding amounts into the service areas and not the strategies. Because once again, for those who have been a part of my life for the last 15 years at DCYF, I always say, how much really does your program cost? Tell me your true cost. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Because if you give me a number, then I'm going to say that's what it is, and that's what you're going to get. But you're like, no, that's not how much it really costs. Well, I'm like, but that's what you told me. But I understand, too, the limitations. It's like, well, it's only so much. I want to make sure I get something. But if you don't tell us, we don't know, and we can't respond and pivot and move, accordingly. This also allows for us to ensure more equitable funding as it pertains to neighborhoods and population coverage. We wanted to have a little bit more flexibility and freedom to say, you know what, yes, we want to put a little bit more here in enrichment and skill building, or a little bit more here in workforce, or a little bit more here in educational supports, literacy, or academic supports. So it just allows, for us to have a little bit more fluidity in our funding. We learned this during the pandemic. For those of you who are current grantees, being able to have folks move around and cross services and to be able to meet the needs, like the basic needs of families that were happening in the city. We had to totally say, okay, well, we don't care what strategy you're funded in. We're going to allow that flexibility. We took that same thinking into this RFP. Okay. Now, what's new? This will be new for those who have been with us, but not new for those who are just now going to join us. But universal requirements. We took what we required across all the strategies, we lifted them up, and we've added some more universal requirements no matter what service area, no matter what strategy you apply in. Please read through those universal requirements because you will be held accountable to meet those. Everything walks front and back. The universal requirements tie back to all the strategies, it ties back to all the service areas, and it ties back to all 4 of our result areas. So we've been very intentional this go round to make sure that front and back, you guys see the connection and understand what we were trying to do. Understand the vision and what we're trying to move forward in these next 5 years, okay? It's a lot of universal requirements, but it's stuff that you guys do already, Youth and, what's in there? Cultural responsiveness is in there. Some other things that are in there. I can't think of them right now. But a lot of the stuff that you guys already do. What we also did was we listed the performance measures within the RFP. So it's not a got you. You're able to see what we're asking you to meet, how the performances, the measures that we're at, or the impact that we're asking you to have. and how it connects, once again, to that strategy and connects to the service area and ultimately the result area, right? Like, I don't remember who said it earlier. We know that programs are dynamic. We know you don't fall in one individual result area. You fall across all 4, or maybe 3, or maybe 2, and we know that. And so how the performance measures are designed, there are some that are universal across all 4 result areas, but then there are some that are very specific because we are looking for specific outcomes for that particular service area and result area. So once again, read through, right? What is also new, and some of you guys, had a preview of this if you were at our OAC meeting earlier this month, or if you clicked on the video and watched it, it's around flexibility with funding. We also learned a lot about funding and the flexibility of it during the pandemic. And we've had a lot of conversation on how do we make this easier for agencies to have access to funds and what that looks like. So, flexible funding. Agencies will be able to move funding across strategies within the same result area, regardless of the service area or strategy that you are funded in. So, how that used to look, and, I'm gonna admit, I'm kind of biased sometimes with out-of-school time. That's always my go-to. I apologize. That is in the strategies. But how it used to look, out-of-school time, comprehensive year-round, you were only able to, and say you had an out-of-school time, comprehensive year-round grant, and you had a Beacon Community Schools grant. You were only able to move money around that individual grant. How we're doing it now, if you apply under the result area, Youth Are Ready for College Work and Productive Adulthood, under these 3 service areas with these 3 strategies, you will be able to move your funds around across those strategies within that result area. Why? Because these service areas and these strategies all work to meet and reach that one goal of Youth Are Ready for College Work and Productive Adulthood. They work in concert. We are still working on what the cap will be. Like, we're not going to have you take one whole program, take all that money and move it to another. That's not going to happen. But it will allow you to be able to say, hey, I have this one-time expense if I need an extra bus for here. I have savings in this other program because I didn't hire staff until later. You can now use that and be able to move it over into that program. Now, I know people are like, well, what if I only do, in the big matrix Tetris of how can I apply to this RFP, have one program, you only have one program under one result area. We haven't gotten that far yet. We'll get there. But for right now, this is looking at just history and how folks have been funded in the past. This is our first step to making it a lot easier for agencies, and it's a lot of work on our half, on our part to make this work. Sorry, staff. But we are committed to making this a possibility. What this also means is that, and this is a little sneak peek, and this is something that'll happen in orientations later that we do for folks who are funded, but this also means less contracts for you all. We are doing contracts per result area. So, if you have and apply in this result area, Youth Are Ready for College Work and Productive Adulthood, all of these programs will be in one contract. This is what's allowing us to be able to allow you to move funds across. We're still working. Don't ask any questions. Don't send us any questions about how that's going to work. I'm saying that now. I'm not going to answer any question right now about, or even if you email it or put it on the paper. So how is that going to work? We'll tell you about that later. But I want you to, I'm telling you this because, like we said, we want you to think about your programs holistically and think about how you are going to apply to this RFP. How am I going to represent what I do, how I do in the best way possible, right? So this is new. We're still learning. I'm going to say it now. It'll be a struggle, but we're in the struggle together. And we'll make it work, right? Another thing that I want to, because I think this might be my last slide there, but one more thing that I wanted to cover is that in everything that we're doing, we're keeping our youth, our children, youth, and families at the center and making sure that they are going to be able to receive the opportunities, the services, and the resources that they need. These 4 result areas, they're not new. There were our 4 result areas in our last RFP, and we were working towards it. You know, this little nasty pandemic kind of put a halt to that, so we're picking up the work. But we are serious and very committed to making sure we have an impact in these 4 areas. We want to move the needle, and we have to do it together. We can't do it by ourselves. You can't do it by yourselves. Other city departments can't do it by themselves. School district can't do it by themselves. We have to do it collectively. And so hopefully, as you walk through that massive document, put it up in the air, you will see yourselves represented in the result areas. You will see your programs represented in the service areas and in the strategies. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not looking forward to reading all of them because it's a lot. But I am looking forward to reading all of them because I want to see what we have broken apart in previous years be able to come back together, and you're able to really, truly show this is what our program is and this is what it represents. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Teodora Aldefonso Olmo, our Technical Assistance and Capacity Building Manager, and Jasmine Dawson, Director of Community and School Partnerships. Let's get your travel music to launch into some questions.
How y'all doing? All right, we're at the home stretch. Real quick, just give it up for the DCYF staff. Clap it up for them. I know I'm part of it, but I'm adjacent to them. I do the technical assistance, but there's a lot of work and a lot of intention to what y'all are hearing today, so I hope you're excited. And of course, we're not gonna leave you hanging, right? We have a robust technical assistance and capacity building supports for you all, and so we do have some workshops that we're encouraging you all to tap into. One being, we did have a workshop which is recorded, and this is around government funding and budgeting fundamentals. This is on our website for everyone to access. Please note that this workshop does not focus on DCYF's RFP specifically, but provides foundational concepts for government funding and budgeting. So please make sure to take a look at that with your team. The other one is we have our last workshop is around program and grant. Oh, we just did that. Designing for programs and for transitional times. This session, we unpacked how to design programs for uncertain times, reviewed core service areas for 2024-2029, and reimagined how our programs can serve the evolving needs of our communities. So we have these 2 workshops that are on our webpage for y'all to access to help and support ongoing conversations that you might have with your staff, to also help, you know, read the RFP, write for the RFP, all the good things. Sounds good? Sounds good. All right. So this next piece is Jasmine and I. We have 10 questions that we're going to read. I know some of you all, and some answers with that. Some of y'all came in and said, I have questions. And I was like, great. Submit them. So I will read and just to make it kind of fun.
Make it fun.
We'll make it fun. All right, so we're reading a verbatim, okay? So, while it's clear that DCYF is conducting evaluation activities and programs must participate in those activities, it's unclear whether programs will also be required to evaluate themselves or participants. Under each result area, it states, programs will be required to administer participant surveys or other evaluation instruments to examine the outcome measures listed below. And then programs have to answer, What processes and systems does your agency have in place to evaluate services, program quality, and impact? What do you think, Jasmine?
That's a tough one, so I have a long answer for that one. DCYF will develop and provide surveys for strategies that have performance measures based on your youth participant survey and does not expect programs to develop their own. Grantees will be required to distribute, collect, and return surveys to us based on instructions and timelines we will provide. In addition, during the funding cycle, DCYF will conduct more in-depth evaluation of some strategies and will require grantees to engage as needed. Engagement and evaluations may include interviews or distributing and collecting additional assessments. While DCYF does not require agencies to evaluate their programs to receive funding, ongoing assessment and evaluation are best practices for program improvement. Grant funds can be used for evaluation of funded program services, but must be approved by DCYF before implementation.
Next question. So, are programs required? Oh, you did that one? Okay, just kidding. We got excited. Oh, are there any length limits for any questions?
Yes. There are character limits for the questions in this RFP. This error has been corrected in the most current version of the RFP document, which is available on our website and is up to date in our online RFP system. The following character limits apply to the questions in the RFP. Target population need, 900 characters. Program overview, 900 characters. Program implementation, 900 characters. And as Sharice mentioned earlier, program design and implementation gets 1,400 characters.
If we have a historical/proven DCYF program, is it better to apply for continuations of these existing programs or to apply to expand the program into other qualifying underserved schools?
DCYF cannot provide guidance to applicants about how they should apply to our RFP, including the services area and/or strategies an agency should apply under. We encourage all applicants to reflect on their program, read through all the service areas and strategies, and identify which result areas, service area, and strategies make the most sense for your agency.
Will we need to have youth board member in place by the end of 2023, since there seems to be a lot of guidelines on this?
No. Agencies do not need to have a youth board member to qualify for this RFP. The expectation is that if funded, grantees will need to have a youth on their board before the end of the 5-year funding cycle.
Clarification on TAE versus disconnected TAE. Are there strategies with targets to serve any/all TAE versus just disconnected TAE?
Ooh, I got a long answer for this one. No, there are no DCYF strategies that serve any and all TAE as opposed to disconnected TAE. DCYF is charter mandated to use our funds to serve disconnected transitional age youth TAE. The city charter defines disconnected TAE as youth ages 18 to 24 who are homeless or in danger of homelessness, have dropped out of high school, have a disability or other special needs, including substance abuse or low-income parents, are undocumented, are new immigrants and/or English language learners, are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning LGBTQ, and/or transitioning from the foster care, juvenile justice, criminal justice, or special education system. DCYF also understands that life circumstances can be fluid for TAE, and that these young people may shift from being at risk of disconnection to actively fitting within one of the categories listed above. Additionally, DCYF recognizes the importance of caring adults and need for their consistent presence in the lives of TAE.
By when does a CBO need to have a young person on the board?
Agencies do not need to have a youth board member to qualify for this RFP. This expectation is that if funded, grantees will need to have a youth on their board before the end of the 5-year funding cycle.
Oh, say it again.
No, we said it twice.
Does DCYF have a preferred threshold of the percentage of total program costs that it will grant?
No. DCYF does not have a preferred threshold of the percentage of total program costs that our grant will cover. We encourage applicants to submit proposals that request funding that represents the true cost of their programs.
Regarding award ranges, can DCYF provide guidance on the anticipated minimum and maximum award per organization in general and preferably for each category?
For this RFP, DCYF is not providing a minimum or maximum award range for strategies. We encourage applicants to submit proposals that request funding that represents the true cost of their programs.
Last question. Does offering a program incentive strengthen our proposal, even if our target population is K-5? Do you encourage an incentive for the families?
DCYF highly recommends that applicants review the universal requirements on page 15 of the RFP, as well as the best practices section in each strategy. We also recommend that applicants consider the role of incentives within their program model and make a case for the importance of this approach in their proposal. And that is the last question, and we got one. Okay, we got one question that just came in. Okay.
No, not just came in. It was missed from there.
Okay. Okay. I'll let you read it. Can Justice?
Oh, got you. Can Justice Service grants serve young people who live out of the county?
Yes, Justice Services grants can serve young people who live out of the county who are under the jurisdiction of the San Francisco Juvenile Delinquency Court. That was a big one. So that concludes the question section. And just as a reminder, you may have more questions after today. Please make sure you submit your questions in writing to rfp@dcyf.org. Also, reminder, the deadline to submit your questions is September 1st by 5 p.m. And as you see folks on the way out, DCYF staff particularly, they cannot answer questions via telephone, face-to-face, in person, all of that. Please submit your questions. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, and see you all soon.